Tom Senior, he's a water chemist. I mean, he knows more about water than anybody I've ever met in my lifetime, and forgotten more than I'll ever know, as we've been talking about molecular hydrogen and about diatomic hydrogen, how it works and how it's structured and how it functions inside the body, and how to make water wetter and how to do all these different wonderful things that capacity-wise you just can't understand. And that's why I said you have to get a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper, because as Tom starts talking, you guys will literally be knocked off your chairs, or you should be standing up and be prepared for what's going to hit you, because it is so much information. But the coolest thing is that, as always, Tom Sr. can talk about it the way nobody else can talk about it. He understands it the way nobody else understands it. And he loves it, and he's genuine, and he's sincere about it like nobody is. So when we talk about it today, Tom, gosh, it is literally mind-blowing what you've been able to accomplish and put together in terms of the system and the output of hydrogen in the water. And I am as excited as I've ever been. I can't wait for people to hear more about it tonight. So without further ado, I'm just going to turn it right over to you. Tom Maurer, Sr., founder of Sizzle International. Take it away.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm sure glad to be here tonight and to talk to you about one of the most exciting discoveries in history of water and also in human health. And there's a real big effort to do something about water, because it's becoming so contaminated nowadays. And so with the use of water, it's becoming restricted. There's becoming less of it. Toxins are accumulating in it like never before. And the fact is, it's estimated that by 2050, which now doesn't seem like too many years away, does it, that all available fresh water in the world will be fully in use. There won't be any more available fresh water for anything. If you look at something, example like the Mississippi River, by the time it reaches the Gulf of Mexico, the water that entered into it has been used 7 times. Now, that's quite a shocking thing. You wouldn't even think of that, would you? But that's how it is. And there's many places within ecosystems in water where fish are no longer there. And they're not there necessarily because of toxins in the water, but because so many pharmaceuticals are now entering the water, and they're estrogenic. And so when it comes time to spawn, the male fish are so overpowered with estrogen mimics as they don't cycle and they don't spawn. Therefore, fish in certain parts of rivers and streams are becoming extinct because they're simply not reproducing. Now, within the drinking water we have, where we live, most of us have water that's contaminated with a great number of things. Birth control pills is really something else, because it just goes through the water and it isn't taken out, and many other estrogenic compounds, particularly from things like even soy and those types of compounds are estrogenics, estrogen mimics, and so we try to avoid it and get away from it. And I remember one time you could walk into a store and you could ask for a glass of water, and for a counter they'd give you a glass of water. Now you have to buy water, and who would have thought 20 years or 30 years ago you'd have to buy water? But unfortunately it comes in plastic, and the problem with the plastic is water is produced on such a large scale and put in these plastic bottles that now water, if you want to compare it with gasoline, it's higher per gallon than gasoline is today. And so what are they doing about it? Well, you find out most of these places that are putting water in plastic bottles are literally taking water from the city system and simply filling the bottles, just sterilizing it, perhaps a little filtering with it, but essentially it's city water, and you can test it for chlorine. There's chlorine content in it, and many of those things. So you're not getting the purified water that you want. In addition to that, water is a solvent. It dissolves a lot of things, and many of the compounds that are in the plastic bottles themselves are leach out into the water. They also leach out into other things, like especially you have shampoos and conditioners and cleaning products of all types that we use, lotions, and they're even more powerful when it comes to solvent activity as dissolving the solvents that are in the plastic bottles that they come in. Now here at Sizzle, what we do is we make sure the plastic bottles that we use are types that are processed a certain way in certain types of plastics, so you won't leach out those estrogen mimic endocrine disruptors and toxins and carcinogens that are found in plastic bottles. So when you think you buy a bottle of plastic water in a plastic bottle and you're getting pure water, you're getting really quite contaminated water. And just let it heat up a little bit in your car once and then see what it tastes like, because you get even more of it coming out. So we're on a quest now to remove plastic bottles from your use as much as we can, because they're creating a lot of harm for you. They actually contribute to obesity. You didn't realize that, but these estrogen mimics, some of them are 400 times more powerful than estrogen, and they're not metabolized by the liver, so they keep building up and building up. And some of these actually are the same ingredients that are found in Agent Orange, where all the Vietnam vets are getting cancer from, and they're in the plastic bottles and all the other things that you're using for lotions, and they're not listed because they're byproducts of producing that. So you don't know what you're getting in your body, but you're getting an awfully lot of toxins. And now with cancer rates, 1 in every 2.5 people, where just a little over 100 years ago or so it was 1 in 8,000, shows we're living in a very contaminated world. And water is everywhere, and it's so necessary for everything that we do, from growing food to our own bathing and drinking and all the processes that water is used for. That it's now becoming highly contaminated. And then as you have the drought that's going on in places like California and here Utah in the west, the water tables are dropping down, and with that the toxins within it become more and more concentrated. Well, that's kind of a horror story, isn't it? But it's what's there. But we're not going to talk about filtering water in itself, because filtering water can be done, and can be done fairly effectively. But there are things that you can do to make water much more dynamic. After all, the majority of our body is made up of water, and one of the biggest problems that we have in today's world is a lack of hydration, where many of us are dehydrated. We don't drink enough water, and women especially are that way. They don't naturally drink as much water, and they should be drinking a lot more. So out of that, some people have started to get involved years ago, and they were doing things with ionizing water, and many of you have heard about that. Those are the ionizers. They run an electrical field across a plate, and across this plate from anode to a cathode, or a cathode to an anode. That's positive and negatives. As they do, they can create ionization in the water. That's why they're called, of course, ionizers. And this electrolysis that they do, and there's a number of forms of different types of electrolysis that can be treated with water. Some of them are highly touted, but literally totally ineffective, and others are advocated where what they're advocating really doesn't work, and something else is working that they're not even aware of. It's a complex thing. Now, I'm not going to try and muddle you up with all of this, but my background was I was an industrial chemist before I started in this. One of my specialties was water, and I worked for one of the largest companies in America, in the world, and one of the divisions was a water treatment system, and I know a lot about water for treating commercial systems, for food processing, for heating boilers, water cooling systems, sanitizing, and all those types of things. So I'm really well versed in water. So I'm not just speaking off the top of my head. I really know this. And one thing about ionizing water is you can do certain things with it, and some things you can't. They have a lot of people have advocated ionizing water, and you can put magnets and things that are on pipes, and it's supposed to ionize the water molecule and keep minerals from depositing, but it really does not work. It's just hocus pocus, and they're using this type of science. Others with ionizers that are being sold, and I'm not going to name any companies by name, but they've been advocating things and saying that, well, you can change the pH balance in your body by drinking alkaline water. That's absolutely, utterly impossible. If you do an equation on that, a mathematical equation in water chemistry, you would have to drink about, if you took alkaline water of a pH about of 10. Now, they talk about alkaline water, and that's even wrong, too. Alkaline water is dissolved mineral in a base water, so there's acid and base. So you're really talking about base water, but the whole industry calls it alkaline water. But in reality, alkaline is the alkalis that are dissolved in water in a pH above 7. Now, I won't give you a big lesson in chemistry, but pH means the power of the hydrogen atom. It ranges in a scale from 1 to 14. 7 is neutral. The pH within your body, your saliva, is about 7.2 3.8, somewhere right in that range. And so people say, well, when your body gets acid, that you catch certain types of diseases like candida and things like that. Your body never gets acid. It becomes less base. And if you get down around the difference from about 7.38 to about 7.2, there's not much change, but that's enough to really do it within your body. But to change the base or the alkalinity in your body, we'll use that term just because it's commonly used, to change it from 7.2 to 7.38, if you calculated it out, it would take about 35 gallons of base water, pH of about 10, a day to be able to change the alkalinity or the pH within your body. Now, your skin is acidic, and the reason that it's acidic is it helps, it's very resistant to bacterial growth in the acid state. So the skin is that, but your internal organs are about, we normally say about 7.4, but 7.38 is ideal. So we'll just say 7.4. So anyway, nobody could drink 35 gallons of water a day. I mean, that's 7 5-gallon buckets. You couldn't even drink a bucket of it a day. Too much water will overload the brain, causes death. And so these advocates that are saying alkaline water is really good for you and can change your pH is just sheer, utter nonsense, and it cannot work. But it's been advocated. And the thing that many of these people did not realize as they were producing alkaline water and doing it is what was really doing the job was a compound that was being produced that they weren't aware of, and it's called hydrogen. Now, hydrogen is the base molecule of pretty well everything here in the universe. It's certainly the smallest molecule, and anything based upon a size of a molecule, if you want to, in science, they call it, you can call it Daltons or molecular weight, and it's all based upon the size of the hydrogen atom, which has a molecular weight of 1. So if a molecule was a molecular weight of 4,000, it would be equal in size to about 4,000 atoms of hydrogen. Now, that's really not important for all of you to know it. I'm just giving you some of a background here so you can understand a little bit of it. But as they started to get involved with ionization of water, not much was known about it, and only in about 2007 were the first really significant studies done on that. So we're only looking about 7 years ago or so. And prior to that time, there were only maybe 30 or 40 studies that were done on hydrogen in water in a base state or the alkaline state up to that point. But now there's been a tremendous amount of research going on. There's over 300 studies of the effects of dissolved hydrogen gas in water. And they found it really has a profound effect. In fact, if you want to think of it this way, with hydrogen water, where it's dissolved hydrogen gas, where it's dissolved in water, it really is very close to the perception of attaining more of a result like the fountain of youth, because the hydrogen is full of so much energy and can do so many things. Because of the small size of the hydrogen molecule, it can penetrate easily. But it's also a gas, and people think of hydrogen gas, and certainly you can float a balloon with hydrogen gas. It is explosive, of course, but you put it in water, and the amounts that are in water, you don't have an issue with that kind of thing. But as these ionizer machines were coming out, people were saying, oh, alkaline water is making people more healthy, and in reality it was not that at all. It was dissolved hydrogen gas that was in that water that does it. Now, it has a tremendous and a profound effect in the body, and it can penetrate through every single tissue in the body, goes through the blood-brain barrier easily, and as a consequence, it does things within the cells that really nothing else can really do. But with all the advocation of alkaline water is good for you, it's really a misnomer. It's really dissolved hydrogen in water that is good for you. So it was producing, these units were producing small amounts of it, but it was enough to have quite a therapeutic effect on a number of people. Incidentally, if any of you have ever noticed by eating fiber that as a fiber material, that you feel better with that, and it starts balancing the digestive system and things like that. But actually, fiber creates hydrogen gas with it, and it's very healthy as it goes throughout the cells in the body. So if we take a look at molecular hydrogen, it can do a number of things, and studies are being done on it right now for many, many different types of things that can happen within people. They're studying it on things like diabetes and Parkinson's disease and all sorts of degenerative diseases, even like arthritis and premature cell death and lipid peroxidation, which is, of course, cholesterol, and cholesterol, and that has to do with things like Alzheimer's and free radical damage and damage to the DNA and glucose uptake and liver protection and so many different things that it's really remarkable what's happened within the last 6 or 7 years since this has come out. But the majority of water treatment companies that are selling machines, they sell water filters, and water filters, certainly they are good. Some are a lot better than others. A lot of them sell an activated charcoal system, and you've probably heard of that. And then there's reverse osmosis. And depending on the degree of the membranes in the reverse osmosis, the better the water can be. And that's the best way of filtering water. But there is a real place for activated charcoal systems too, especially for neutralizing a lot of different types of toxins, etc. So you listen to all this and you think, how do we sort something out of this? How do we really get what we want with water? Well, what we've done is we've taken a good, strong look at this. We're working with the head of the Molecular Hydrogen Institute, and who's been helping us on some of these things that we're doing. And so we're bringing out a system now that can do about everything that you really want it to do. So let's talk about some of the things that are really important. First of all, they're the machines that are being sold as ionizers, and there's several different brands, some that are kind of famous. They're, for the most part, they're creating acid water and alkaline water is what they're saying. And of course, acid water has a sanitizing effect, and alkaline or base water has a cleaning effect with it. But they're touting virtues of them for health benefits that really necessarily aren't there, and one of them is a great improvement in health and the internal organs and the like. But when you create hydrogen, and it's done on the negative side, so as the pH is increased above 7, you start producing diatomic hydrogen. Now, most of these companies, in fact, it's all of them, are doing it across what they call plates, and they have these plates that are usually they can have a steel core, they can be titanium, they have platinum coating on the outside, and as they run the electrical current through it, positive and negative or negative to positive on it, and they reverse it, they start, as they do it to create a higher pH water, they start to produce diatomic hydrogen. Now, the levels of it in some cases are very small. In most cases, they are. And when they turn these machines on, the more water that flows through them, it decreases the output. You'd think it would increase, but it actually decreases the amount of hydrogen that's produced. And these companies are selling it and recommending that you drink water in a higher pH, say like 9.5 or 10. The problem with this, and so I'm going to follow a couple of things so that you understand a little bit about water here. I don't want to get you can take some notes on this, and we'll have some tapes and literature and things like this for you to understand it. But the higher the pH goes in water, the more rapidly the hydrogen dissipates. And because hydrogen is such a small molecule, it's very difficult to contain it anyway. And if you filled a bottle full of, or a plastic bottle full of alkaline water, as they call it, it wouldn't be very long before all of the hydrogen would be gone, because it would dissipate right through the plastic bottle itself and not be retained in it. So if you're packing around a bottle of alkaline water because you think it's doing you some good, you're really packing it around for nothing, because within a couple of hours, it's all pretty well gone out of there. So you need to either have a right type of container, and we're bringing one out that you will be able to retain hydrogen in it for a longer period of time. But we're going to generate hydrogen a couple of different ways that we're doing. And we have two different models of machines that we're bringing out to do this. And so if you look at hydrogen, they're looking at levels of it in parts per million, if you will. And most of these machines will put out hydrogen in, say, like a 0.5 or 6 ppm. It's not high, but it's enough to do some good if you can drink it immediately. But as they increase it, it goes the pH and the flow, it goes down considerably. And so companies are trying to generate more. They're adding more plates to. There's the plates. You might just think of it like a little bar, like a candy bar, if you will. It's rectangular and long, and they put those in, and then of course they have a certain surface area that the electricity goes over to create both alkaline and hydrogen water. Although most companies are really not so aware of the value of hydrogen, but as that happens, there's where the health benefits come. And then some companies, they'll talk about the ORP value, and of course that's the oxidation reduction potential, and they're saying, well, that's really the important part of it, and it's not. The production of hydrogen far surpasses the ORP value of it. Now, and many companies are putting out machines that, while it does reduce oxidation, that's like rusting, if you want to think of it that way, the ORP value in most products is somewhere around 200 to 400. So we have that, and I'll talk about that a little bit because it's significant for oxidation reduction potential, but the real power comes from the hydrogen, and particularly the type of hydrogen that we're producing, which is called diatomic hydrogen. It's two atoms that are bonded together rather than a single hydrogen molecule. But the ORP value of our product, ORP, will range from 600 to 800. So it's a very high range, and it's even possible it could be cranked up to be even higher than that. The potential to reach it, but it's not necessary. It could be 1,000 or 1,100. But we're going to have machines that are routinely putting out 600 to 800 ORP, and with that, you'll have good oxidation reduction potential for throughout your body. But the important thing is how much hydrogen can you put out. Now, the way that it creates hydrogen is it simply splits water. Now, water is H2O. That's two hydrogen molecules or atoms and oxygen atom. And oxygen likes to pair, as you know. And in the air we breathe, oxygen is O2 because oxygen really wants to pair. And oxygen's very reactive. If you filled a room with oxygen and just clicked a spark, it would be a giant bomb that would go off. So the power of oxygen is enormous for creating energy, but also when it's single, then it wants to bond, and it has tremendous oxidation potential to oxidize or rust. Systems, biology, steel, rust, of course, your body, your DNA, your mitochondria, all of those things, your RNA, are all oxidized heavily. And when we breathe in oxygen. It gets into our cells, and within the cell, then it's like a car engine in a way. You have mitochondria. There's hundreds of those in a cell, and they're the little engines that create energy within the cell. So it takes in oxygen, and then it takes in a fuel like gasoline for a car engine goes in, and oxygen comes in, and a spark explodes it. The process is very similar within the cellular bodies. When the oxygen goes into the mitochondria, then it takes in like a sugar or glucose or carbohydrate, and then it will react it and split the oxygen, releasing energy, and it forms a molecule, ATP, which is an energy molecule in the mitochondria. And so then once you split oxygen, it wants to oxidize, and as we get older, we produce less and less of enzymes, particularly some like glutathione and SOD, superoxide dismutase, that neutralize these. And glutathione gives us enormous amounts of energy, too, on top of that. But they go down, and so as we're not oxidizing, as the oxygen is oxidizing us faster and faster because we're producing less and less of these types of enzymes, we start to age, you get cancer, you get deterioration of the DNA. It's being corroded away with it. Well, diatomic hydrogen, which we're producing in very high levels. I saw a company that was bragging about putting out 320 in a test, and they said, we didn't have any idea that the plates would produce this much. And well, we have a system that'll produce up to 1,500. So it's significantly higher levels than what any of these can do. And when diatomic hydrogen penetrates the cell, it is very, very effective in supporting the cell to produce high levels of ATP, the energy molecule. It also produces or supports the production of large levels of glutathione. And there's lots of companies that have tried to take supplements and get them to increase glutathione because it's such an important enzyme within the body. But you take a supplement, and I don't care what they say, they're very ineffective for producing glutathione. But diatomic hydrogen, just drinking it in the water and getting it through the body, will produce very high levels of glutathione, or support the body to produce that. With doing it, it also increases the ATP, and it goes into the mitochondria itself. And that diatomic hydrogen has a profound effect as just like car engines will wear out. Well, mitochondria wears out, and they start bleeding electrons, and those electrons start doing things like oxidizing plaque and things like that, and for cholesterol, and you start plaquing up the cells, and so they can't take in nutrients and oxygen and get rid of the toxins and waste. So all these toxins and materials start to accumulate within the cell, and the cellular debris or garbage, as it will, slows down the functions within the body. Well, when diatomic hydrogen penetrates within it, it has a powerful antioxidant effect, and it also helps to clean up the cellular accumulation that's within the cell, and it knocks down things like the oxidation that is causing the plaquing and those types of things with it. It helps the body as it gives it energy, tremendous amounts of energy, and the body has mechanisms to repair DNA and to maintain itself. Just like if you cut yourself, your body will start to repair it. Well, as DNA starts to degrade, or mitochondria start to degrade, it can repair itself if it has certain types of nutrients that are there, and diatomic hydrogen is just absolutely a spectacular one to do those types of things. So with the diatomic hydrogen, it will penetrate every cell of the body, and you have enough of it coming out as we do with ours, you'll have a tremendous increase in it. Now we have two different models that we're going to introduce for producing diatomic hydrogen water, but it does other things too. It has the real high ORP value with it, and it also will oxygenate the water and sanitize the water and do a number of other things with it too, and I'll talk about all those features as it does. One of the systems we use, we have a way of, we're putting plates in one of the systems, but with it we use a plate that is a perforated plate rather than a flat plate, because the surface area of a perforated plate is much, much greater. In fact, it can be hundreds of times greater than a flat plate will. And so as you do that and you run the electricity through it, all the plate systems that are out there are running off transformers, and transformers are wildly different in the performance of them themselves. So as transformers start to electrolyze the water that's going through it, they also set up the plate so they start to develop a polarity, a magnetism. And as a consequence, this magnetism will greatly affect the production of diatomic hydrogen, decreasing it over a period of time. And it also makes water scale, a mineral that is in the water that it's processing, adhere to it, and it'll accumulate on one end or the other end, the anode or the cathode, on it, and so it starts to film up or scale up with mineral deposits that are accumulating on the plates, and that's actually a very big problem with virtually all of the plate companies that are out there in the marketplace. But what we do is we use we don't use a transformer. And transformers can be off 40% fluctuation in processing water. So these surges, you get high and low, and all that gives you sporadic production of diatomic hydrogen, and it also really has an adverse effect on the plates themselves that are there. Now, this is quite a bit of technical information, so I hope I'm not overloading you. But with that, what we do is we use as a circuitry, it's a SMP circuitry, and what it does is by using microcircuits that we change the fluctuations of the current, and we do it many times every second, milliseconds, if you will. So it's just clicking instead of clicking on and off, like you turn a system on. And a few of them have tried to reduce the magnetism and the mineralization of the plates by switching the polarity from positive to negative, negative to positive when they turn the systems on. And it does it to a degree, but it's pretty weak. And they'll all plate up, or they'll all corrode up with mineral deposit. But what we do is we have one that goes through, and it does it many, many times a second, and so as a consequence, you're not going to get the mineral buildup on these. And all of these systems will plate, and many of them have self-cleaning systems where they have to purge them, run through them, or pull them out and replace plates, or run strong chemicals through to try and it's a lot of work to try and remove the mineralization so that it's much more effective. But we won't have that with ours. And then with the greatly increased surface area that we have because of the perforations in the plates that we're using in the system we're bringing out now, you have so much more area to produce so much more diatomic hydrogen that we can, it's not the number of plates. Some of these, I see some have got 14 plates. Well, you know, one plate could have more surface area on it than 14 plates could be with the perforations that are in it. So it's an advertising thing, I guess it is, or maybe that's the best that they know or want to do, or it's a battle of numbers. But the reality is not the number of plates you have, it's the surface area that you have to either create acidic or alkaline water, if you will, but the real key to this thing is diatomic hydrogen. And so what we do is we can produce large amounts of it. Now, the other thing that's very important is we produce large amounts of it at full flow. And this is something that other systems cannot do. You have to turn the water way, way down. And if you turn it up, you're not, well, they say they can produce diatomic hydrogen. It's minuscule and insignificant almost at full flow. With this one, whether it's a low flow or a full flow, you're always producing maximum amounts of the diatomic hydrogen. Now, we say it's diatomic because the two hydrogens are bonded together in the process of doing it. Now, this takes place as the electrolyzing of the water takes place, and of course it takes the oxygen off the molecule, and it also bonds the two hydrogen together, and we have a system that does that very efficiently. Now, the other thing which people don't think about is when you have created diatomic hydrogen, what happens to that single oxygen molecule? It's going to want to bond. So we have another system that works within this, and it's in our filtration system. And so the water coming into it is filtered through a couple of filters, and these filters are different than the filters that these other companies that I've been seeing are using. About all of them are using either a membrane, but most of them are using a activated charcoal. The problem with charcoal is it's there, and they'll put silver in it to sanitize it. But when you're running water through activated charcoal, water follows the path of least resistance. And so as the water is going through the activated charcoal, it will start to channel. It'll go the easiest way through. And at first it finds small openings, but the more water that flows through it, then the channel becomes larger and larger and larger, and pretty soon most of the water is really not getting filtered out. So we have a system that where we use an activated charcoal, we also use a membrane system within the two filter systems, which takes out most of the things and will filter out things that get through other products, like pharmaceuticals are getting through other filters, and we think we can get virtually all of the pharmaceuticals out of ours. And with that, we can keep mineralization down. And the other thing that's very bad on the ionic systems that are being there today is if you don't have very pure water coming in, and that would literally mean that you would have to have a water softener on it before you do. With these other systems, I don't think you have enough of a flow rate with even reverse osmosis. But if you get much mineral coming in it, they just don't produce much diatomic hydrogen at all, especially if it's high in calcium, which most water is very high in calcium. It's the number one dissolved mineral in it. So they have a real problem with an area. If you're in the hard water area, your system isn't going to work very well. But the system that we have for producing diatomic hydrogen, we have a proton exchange membrane in our most sophisticated system that's out, and that literally is totally unaffected by that. And the system we have for the mesh plates, it will operate very well because of the circuitry, the electronic circuitry, the switch that we have on it, so that it's not an issue as it is with the transformer-based ones. So those are some of the points that are important there. But when we get into water filtration, we use two-stage, it was more than two stages, two water filters that are multi-stages, about 5 stages within it. And we have things like membrane, filtration, we have the activated charcoal. But what we do with the activated charcoal is we have a plate, rather than just go through and out through set points. Our plate will spin, and so as it spins, as it's being done, it will change portals all of the time. And when it does, it'll collapse a portal that water's been going through, so it won't channel and it won't tunnel. So it goes through that, and so you have a very high rate of filtration all of the time with this, rather than going from high to low to almost none with it. So we go through all that. And then the second filter also has what's called an ozonator in it, and it creates ozone. And ozone within water is a very powerful sanitizer. And within a very short chamber, ozone will kill about all of the microorganisms, well, all of them, that are really in water, whether it be bacteria, fungus, yeast, mold, any of those types of viruses. The ozone will break them down very quickly. There's also a synergistic effect when you have an ozonator there with a diatomic hydrogen producer, and that is ozone is O3, and when you split hydrogen off, you're left with a single oxygen molecule, and what will happen with that, it has so much power, it'll pull an oxygen off the ozone that's in the water, and so you have two O2 molecules there. So what I'm telling you is that this machine not only produces very high level of diatomic hydrogen, it also produces very high levels of oxygenated water for you. So it turns it out both ways. And oxygen in water, of course, is very good for the organs and if on the skin and anything else you're doing with that, you'll have large amounts of oxygen. But now, whereas with diatomic hydrogen, when you drink it, of course, it goes to every cell in your body and neutralizes most of the toxins that are within the body. This is the theory. I have to say theory. But much of that is being proven now, but we haven't tested our machine on that. But the Molecular Hydrogen Institute is telling us that this is what the properties of it are. And so I want to pass that on to you because it will penetrate through everything. And we're going to have a test for you that we're going to show you that'll be very demonstratable. And you can test water, and there's a reagent you can put in it. It turns it blue if there's diatomic hydrogen in it. If there's none, it won't. And so we'll be able to do that. And one of the tests that we're going to have is that you can take a clear container, a big vase or whatever you wanted, or we would use it would be a beaker, and you could fill it with water, and you could put some reagent in it, nothing would happen. You fill another with, it comes out of our machine with diatomic hydrogen with it, then you put the reagent in, and it'll go blue. And then to show the power of, and this is a very easy demonstration to do, but very dramatic one, you could take a plastic sandwich bag and you could fill it with water and then put caustic soda or lye in it, which has a pH of 14, as high as it goes, and you could dissolve that in it, and you can test the pH of the water, and it'll be either neutral or perhaps slightly acidic with it, and then you can come back and you can test the water with all of the lye in the sandwich bag, and it'll be a 14. Now, one thing about pH, you need to understand that it's an algorithm, and every time you go from one level to another. It's not an increase of 1, it's an increase of 10. So if neutral is 7, to give you an example, and you go to 8, it's 10 times greater. If you go to 9, now it's 100 times greater than 7. So to 10, it's 1,000. 11, it's 10,000. 12, it's 100,000. 13, it's 1,000,000. To 14, it's 10 million. So you see how much it is, and so that's why alkaline water doesn't work on the stomach, because if you're putting alkaline water of 10 times, pH of 10, where your stomach's sitting down there somewhere around 2, it's about 10 to 100 million times different, and it couldn't possibly change that acidity at all. If it did, it'd make you quite sick and upset your intestinal system. So don't buy into that alkaline water is good for you. It's the diatomic hydrogen in it that is good for you, and the more of it you get up to a certain point is really the health benefit. So anyway, we go back to this, and so you fill the container with diatomic hydrogen water, drop some reagent, it's blue, and you put the sandwich bag down, closed up, and you drop it into the diatomic hydrogen. You leave it for about 15 minutes. You come back, and the water's still blue, and the bag is still clear, the water in it, and you can take a pH meter, and we'll have one for you, or you can just use a pH strip. You can dip it in, shows you what the pH is. It's just like a little, almost a piece of dental floss. It's a little wider than that. But anyway, you've tested them before, and you might be talking about 7 with the water and 14 with the lye water that's in the sandwich bag, and you come back in about 15, 20 minutes, and you open up the sandwich bag, and you test the pH, and it will be neutral. It will be about 7. It'll be in the 7s. And what will happen is all the diatomic hydrogen will have penetrated through the plastic bag and neutralized the lye. And then you can drop, put a drop of the reagent in, and everything in the bag will go blue because it's full of diatomic hydrogen. And yet the demonstration is plastic bag is a lot more, or your cells in your body are a lot more permeable than a plastic bag is. And so it's been able to penetrate the plastic bag, but the coloring from the reagent was too large. It wouldn't go through, but it went through the plastic bag and neutralized all of the lye, the free radicals that are there, flesh-eating, cancer-causing, corrosive, OH, negatively charged molecules at 14, and it's gone through it and neutralized it right down to where it's in the 7s with it. It's a remarkable demonstration and easy to show with it on how it can do. So if it can penetrate a sandwich bag, it can go everywhere in your body, bones, through the blood-brain barrier, heart, liver, kidneys, every tissue you have in your body. So now you have the diatomic hydrogen, which can do all of these types of things, and you have a highly oxygenated water to go in and do it, and we have ozonator, and we're removing all of the ingredients out that are harmful in it. We're getting pharmaceuticals out. We're neutralizing free radicals. It's going into the cells. It's creating, it's supporting the body to create large levels of glutathione, which is an absolute premium anti-aging, life-extending molecule in the body, and neutralizing, producing lots of ATP, neutralizing toxins, heavy metals, all types of free radicals that are in the cell within your system, and you just start feeling better because you have all of this diatomic hydrogen within your system. So I've talked long and fast for quite a bit so you can understand exactly what we're doing with this. We have the premier system in the world, and many of these systems that molecular hydrogen can do really they get involved as they get reacting with compounds within it, and they're involved in supporting altering of cell signaling, making cells a lot more active, greatly increasing cell metabolism and gene expression, and anti-inflammatory and anti-allergenic and anti-cell death. It just makes cells healthy as the cells within their own system can use this because it's one of the most important things. But the production of the glutathione, it increases superoxidase dismutase also and catalase, and so you have these what they call cytoprotective proteins within the body. So look at what diatomic hydrogen can do. It is really like the fountain of youth or elixir of youth to a large degree. Now, granted, we have TSX here within Sizzle, which really supports building, maintaining of telomeres. That's another major step. So what would you say about molecular hydrogen, taking it with dietary supplements? Well, I'll tell you what. They'll go through better. They'll be absorbed better. There'll be more energy with them. It'll take more water into the system as it goes through, and so you'll hydrate better. Your cells will be full of water, full of nutrients, full of oxygen, full of the antioxidants that are there, creating antioxidants in your body, creating tremendous amounts of energy, doing all of these things because we have diatomic hydrogen being produced with this and super good water coming into it and oxygenated and sanitized and all of those things that you want. So here's all of this in one system. Now, if you look, and many of you are not familiar with this, these systems are quite expensive. I've seen one of them's been the leading company, and I think they've lost a lot of people because they price these things so much. Their systems are running $4,000 and $5,000 to buy these systems with it, and I think they're greatly overpriced because the technology they're using just an old-time plate technology, and now they're trying to sell people on, well, we're putting more plates on. Well, that's really a moot point. That's an exercise in numbers rather than effectiveness. And so we have this system that will produce a lot of it, and then we'll have an advanced system that we'll be announcing in about a month, and it uses a whole new type of hydrogen, diatomic hydrogen generation, and it'll do it through a proton exchange membrane. It won't even use electrolysis within the system, and it produces very large amounts of it and very consistent, even more so than this system. We have the two systems, but the one we have right now is the best of anything in the world. I don't think there's a close second to it, and then the other one that'll come out is absolutely magnificent in what it will do, and we'll have a few more features on top of that. But the one we have out right now, instead of selling for $4,000 and $5,000 as a dealer, a distributor, we're going to have a separate compensation plan for it, and Aaron will be back and talk about that in a few minutes. But with that, we're going to have a dealer price of $2,495. You'll also be able to finance. We have a financing company set up. It'll require $500 down to do it, but we can finance it through a financing company. And we have a tremendous payout on this that the commission to distributors is much better and much more fair than other companies that are in this type of water business do. So we'll be a couple of $1,000s less than what these other systems. You imagine a couple of $1,000s less, and they'll have an antiquated plate system producing low levels of diatomic hydrogen. They'll have to turn, if they really want to make any of it come out to be of a real therapeutic value, they have to turn the flow way, way down. You wait forever for it to fill, and then if they do it in a high alkaline state, it dissipates so fast. Whereas we're going to produce diatomic hydrogen in a low pH. Now that, I mean, it'll be on the base side, but it'll be very low. It'll be down somewhere around 8 or so with that, and we'll produce copious amounts of it at that level, and it will be much more stable. And with that, we're going to have a type of container that is designed to hold in diatomic hydrogen for a long, long time, 8 or 10 hours with it, so that you can carry it and take it with you and get rid of plastic bottles. Stop buying those because they don't biodegrade in the environment anyway. Now they're really affecting fish as they're getting in there and affecting all kinds of problems with reproductivity and toxins and cancers and all types of damage to our food chain. So get rid of plastic bottles. Yeah, get these containers we have to put diatomic hydrogen and produce a large amount of diatomic hydrogen to go in it, and carry your water with you when you go and just refill it, and you'll never have to worry about these plastic nemesis again with the carcinogens, the endocrine disruptors, the estrogen mimics, all of those things that are in it will never be a part of it again. And with that, you'll be able to super energize your body and create so much great health with it because of this. So I've talked pretty fast now, and I think I've gone probably 45, 50 minutes on this, just so you can see how complex it is. But we're kind of, here at Sizzle, we tell you trust the science, trust Sizzle. We know what we're doing. and and Tom Jr. and I were very astute when it comes to water chemistry. That was part of our business that we did. We know it. We've done this thing right, and so we'll have this system that'll be out. It'll have a $24.95 dealer price, distributor price. Retail will be $29.95. We want to go out and retail it to people. The beautiful thing is, with this, we're going to put it on a very simple unilevel plan. And these other companies, they have volume requirements, and they have like affinity systems. So if you're a big leader, you can get a lot of your incomes blocked. And the bad thing that's happening with this, they're getting so overpriced for their systems that they're not selling many. I mean, when you talk about a system as vastly superior as ours is, for being a couple of $1,000s less than what these other companies are selling with these, and if you get some that start to get down to us, they're pretty cheap systems. Even that, when you're talking about this, but we're doing this direct. We're not going through middlemen, and we have a big company, debt-free, and we can handle this. So we've got a really great price. We've got a very high commission payout. And guess what? For all of you that are distributors, we're going to put this in a separate compensation plan, and Aaron can explain this tonight or another time with it. But with this separate compensation plan, when you sell someone a system, it's going to pay out daily to the person that sells it and to their entire upline. So if you had a person out there, in theory, selling a system, say every day or every other day, or if you had people in your downline within your pay range that was selling system or systems every single day, you're going to get paid every single day with this. Now, isn't that extraordinary? Because in our Fast Start bonus within the Sizzle line, you get your Fast Start bonus paid immediately, and then the rest of it's cumulative and pays out the next month. With this, you're going to get paid every single day. A system sold, if it's in your pay range, you're going to get paid. And there's no blockage in this. We're paying very high percentages and dollars on each level all the way up. So there's you big leaders, you don't have to worry about it like you did these other companies. You're not going to have a bunch of big leaders down there that are blocking the commissions getting to you. And in many cases, you're not getting anything off this. And it's so impossible to get so big to sell so many units that you can make a tremendous amount of money. And with this, with a very reasonably priced product that is with such superiority and the high commissions and unilevel and no blockage, this is going to be a money-making son of a gun for you. And even if you're not, this is the kind of system you need to have in your home, because water is now so highly contaminated with it. And with this, here we're having this purified water loaded with oxygen, loaded with diatomic hydrogen, creating all of these effects at the cellular level within your body. How much better could it be? This is the major breakthrough in water, the greatest one that has ever been made in the history of water, and we've got it out right now. You're going to be able to order it, and you'll be able to order it tonight. And but the first order, we're going to restrict it to about 100, so we can get 100 units out fairly fast, and they won't be made and shipped for about 3 weeks to 4 weeks. But you have to order them now if you want to get in it. And then once they're here, then we're going to open it up to a lot more. So if you want one of these units, you ought to get in fast and get your order in and get it going. We have a company to do financing. If you need to finance it, you can put, we're going to require $500 down, but you can put more if you want. You can pay for it for even cash if you feel like that. If you want to do that, most people can't. But at $500 down for this, I mean, it doesn't take much water at $1.50 and $2 a bottle, does it, to pay for that? And you can have it paid out in monthly payments spread over, I think they'll tell you, about a year and a half or something else like that. But we have a really great system for doing it. We're going to pay out commissions over a 2.5-month period, but you get paid initially with each machine, and there'll be a couple of consecutive payments. So even on payouts, there'll be where they're financed, you're going to get paid all of it within probably an average of about 2.5 months. But first one's going to be a big one, especially to the seller that's there. So that's the story we have on our water system. So remember, now you're not selling alkaline water. Yes, you are. It'll have alkaline water, and you can clean with it and do things like that. But the secret to health is not alkaline water. It's diatomic hydrogen. That is the secret to it, and anyone else that says otherwise, they might be strong, they might advocate it, but that's not the case. And if their machine is giving some health, it's because it's producing some incidental amounts of diatomic hydrogen. But we're producing large amounts of it, and we'll have a great guarantee, 5-year guarantee on this system. So, and then filters and everything. This system is designed easy. When it's time to change the filter, a light will come on, tell you time to change the filter. and you just flip 2 buttons on the side. The front comes up. You literally unscrew the filter and screw another one back on, and that's it. That's how easy it is to operate this system. So it's easy to install. We've got instructions with it. You can plumb it down through your plumbing, or you can hook it onto your faucet. Either way you want, it'll come right within the system. So it's easy to do, easy to install. It's just easy to screwing it on your faucet. If you don't have a faucet that'll work, you just need to drill a hole for the tube to go down, and there's a connector that works on your water pipe. You can just put in a T that's there for it. Simple to do and fast and easy, and you can have it connected in no time. So anyway, there's a lot more I can tell you, but as you can see, this is a complex system that has been made very simple for you. We'll have all of this information on literature, and that'll be out for you to see so you can review it. But I've gone through it very fast and told you all of these things. Hope you've taken a lot of notes. Maybe some of you have recorded it. But this is a system like no other. It's so reasonably priced, and it's so spectacular. It puts out so much of the diatomic hydrogen and oxygen and purifies the water so well, and then has so many beneficial effects at the cellular level of the body. There's nothing in the industry that can even begin to compete with it. I want to thank you for being on the call tonight. I think you can see, I've done this without a note, so you know that I know what I'm talking about with this. But it's heavily studied. We're going to have great videos and literature and websites and everything you need to really make this business a success. Even if you don't go out and sell the systems, you need to buy one for yourself, because literally, with what you've heard tonight, this is the fountain of youth, and this, with water getting worse, this is going to make water great and make water even better than it's ever been before, because of the ability to produce this diatomic hydrogen at the levels that we have in our machine. And thanks all of you for tuning in tonight.